a little bit about and I'm gonna stop sharing my screen so I could see your face.
Uh-huh.
Explain a little bit about the concept of spoken word or rap over music because I feel like this is something that I think has gotten lost in hip hop in recent times, like the more self-expression, not just the educational piece around hip hop, but just being your true authentic self, no matter what that is and what it looks like. I feel like there's so many trending types of hip hop, but they're all they sound the same. So
Mhm.
tell a little bit about that group and how because I think there are three members, right?
There were 3 in our most regular iteration,
Okay.
but there were 11 different people in Deep the Collective over the course of the 8 years that the
Wow.
group
Okay.
was together. And the 3 that are on the cover of the greatest hits, if you will,
Yeah.
um, record, myself, Timim, and JB were the most regular
Okay.
for the longest period of time. Yeah, and that was in part because all that we were all uh, the sort of peak of our activity was while all of us we're all living in Oakland.
I was gonna say they're all in Oakland, and I feel like you all had such unique and individual perspectives. And like I said, can you talk a little bit about why you came together as a collective
Yeah.
and in the
So yeah. And I haven't sent you that. So there was a piece that ran in the Chicago Reader about uh my career in Chicago in the '90s when I first performed, like, and starting in the late '80s when I first started performing hip hop, um, and was in a spoken word scene there that big and co-hosted a party that was sort of the germ that drove the congealing of hip hop community in Chicago. Because there were little parties here and everywhere, and it was the first place that, from a citywide way, that kind of helped start the community. And the group that I was in, He Who Walks Three Ways, we were recording and performing, and we uh, hosted that party. Dero Wicks, who started He Who Walks Three Ways, uh, was and who I was a co we were co MCs in that group. Um, did that party, and I guess that was early, like the first half of 1994.
mm,
Uh,
do you
we
feel like I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Do you feel like the I want to say that I feel like you guys were the next sort of iteration from the parties, from the house parties, and
Yeah.
then so how do you feel like that tied in?
Well, I think that, like, and that's what I would say about, like, the whole, like, if you talk about the complication and sort of messiness of community, there are people who acknowledge that around house music now, but there was a lot of, of course, there was a lot of homophobia, of
Mm-hmm.
course, around that, and like we talked about, anti-blackness
Yeah.
that surrounded not just like disco, post-disco, and the development of house music. House music was club music, so there was a way that it could get, was DJ based music, so there was a way for it to have parties, um,
Right.
stuff in a way that live music, and especially hip hop in the '80s. And that wasn't just Chicago. That just wasn't anywhere except for New York City. That you
Mm-hmm.
had places that really had a proliferation of places where you saw live hip hop music in its
Right.
germinating forms. Um, so that was by 1992 that party happened, and you started having people getting signed by major labels. Hip hop had become its golden age, kind of, whatever, around that. We just started being referred to that as that. Um, my relationship to it was such. We had a couple of different contexts where, like, abortive deals and people who might have helped us get signed, and we recorded a couple of demos. The big thing that happened for me, a couple of things happened for me, was that the whole time I was doing, that's not that I didn't enjoy anything I was doing in that scene and have great appreciation, be able to participate in that scene, but um, I knew I was bisexual when I was 15 years old,
Mm,
um, and was deeply closeted, even though I had a sister. My oldest sister is a lesbian.
okay.
And there's all kinds of other stories about my family that that I know, but that I won't get into. Um, to that particular pot of tea. Uh, but the part of the thing that was frustrating about that scene was that I didn't freestyle, and what we understood as freestyle being rhyming off the top of the extemporaneous sort of rhyming, I
Right.
refused to do it.
Hmm.
And even the times I did it, I wasn't very good at it because I was so terrified of outing myself.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I didn't do that. Um, my son was born at the end of in the middle of 1994. Um, and so there was and also there was I would say that it was that was part and parcel of that too, is that there was a way that I was having to be grown.
Hmm.
I'm not saying anybody else would have necessarily, because of course men don't always relate to that like that. I
Right.
had finished college. I was a grown up in a particular way that a lot of the people in the scene weren't necessarily navigating in the same
Right.
way, that I had to be grown in this particular kind of way. That doesn't mean I didn't want to be a musician there, but that was just a way that I was navigating things.
Well,
And
you have
later,
responsibilities that you
yeah,
held yourself accountable for,
yeah.
right?
And that I moved to that I was moving towards was it's like I can't be myself. I
Hmm.
I can't ever be myself in this scene. So when that group broke up, I didn't do music for about 5 years.
Oh, wow.
Oh, music, nothing. I did visual art stuff because my undergraduate degree is in graphic design.
Right.
So
Okay.
I did illustrative work, and I was teaching in the public school system in Chicago, and then teaching for foundations, arts foundations, arts foundations in Chicago. Yeah, I didn't, I wasn't doing music. One day in 1996, I was in Tower Records. Remember Tower Records? I was
Right.
in Tower Records. I was in Tower Records on Clark Street on the north side, and with my partner, who I eventually moved to the Bay Area with. And there was a copy of Anything That Moves magazine on the rack, and I had never seen. And the
Okay.
cover of the magazine was the one that came out right after that big story in Newsweek came out about bisexuality. Was on the cover of Newsweek in
Yeah.
1996.
For context, that's what they say about bisexual
Yeah,
people.
anything that moves. Yeah, anything. Yeah, yeah. Bisexual will fuck anything that moves. So and I was like, I found this glossy, well produced magazine on a newsstand that was at Tower Records, and I was just like, I remember standing there shaking
Wow.
and saying like, if we move to the Bay Area, I'm going to write for this magazine.